Hey guys, Eric Borzeski here with day 4 of our 30-day practice plan for the month of April. Yesterday we talked about how we get to the top of the backswing, kind of with the right elbow, a little bit of room, greater than 90 degrees. Today we're going to talk about the left wrist and palm reflection, which you may have heard, which again is just kind of also arching the left wrist slightly, things like that. Palm reflection technically is just the wrist for the left hand for the golf swing or the lead hand just going in this direction. Right? If it goes from here to this, that is palmar flexing the wrist. Basically just making the wrist go in that direction. This would be extension of the wrist. This would be palmar flexion of the wrist. Okay? So extension, flexion. So we're talking about the wrist, the lead wrist, basically going like this, right? Making our palm, moving toward our palm direction. Okay? There are a couple things. There's some education that I want to go with this, and trust me, this is 1/100th or so of all the stuff that the wrist conditions and all that stuff can do in the golf swing, maybe less. Especially golfing machine people, they would have heard of the term a flat left wrist. We prefer the term like inline impact because, for example, Fred Couples does this, other people do it. If you have a strong grip, okay, especially at setup, you can see this left wrist is a little cupped, right? It's squeezing that watch just a little bit. That's a relatively strong grip. If I wanted to make that wrist flat, I would have to go set up like this at setup, and if I wanted to hit it with a flat left wrist, it would pretty much be like that. That shaft is pointing somewhere way out here, so that's not what we mean by a flat left wrist. We prefer the term inline impact, because even with a neutral grip, Jordan Spieth and Lee Westwood, name escaped me for a second there, they both hit it with a slightly bent left arm, so that cups their left wrist slightly. So it's more important for us that the shaft points at the lead arm, shoulder at impact, or thereabouts. A little bit further forward, that's okay. Back of it's a flip, we don't like that. But grip strength can have an effect on whether that wrist is cupped or not. Again, with a strong grip, that wrist is going to be a little cupped at the setup, and honestly it's going to be a little cupped at the top. You can see that leading edge of that club is not like super shut if I flatten it. Right? And if I super cup it, it's going to be toe down, which is going to be an open club face. Okay. If I have a relatively neutral grip, I'm still going to probably have a little bit of cupping at setup, unless again I put my hands pretty far forward. Putting the hands forward can help until it gets extreme, then it's a little bit awkward and does some other bad things. So even at setup, you're going to have a little bit of cupping in that left wrist. Less if you have a weaker grip, more if you have a stronger grip. It's okay. We're going to talk mostly about what the wrist should be kind of at the top. And at the top of the backswing, that has a big effect on how you deliver the club. We see from a lot of people, they'll go with a palmy grip that's kind of weak, and at the top, so that they can, because it's palmy, they can't hinge a whole lot, so they'll do some things like really over-exaggerate kind of how much these wrists kind of sag like that. Sometimes the left wrist will almost, or left hand grip will almost like loosen, and they'll re-grip it and some other stuff, but this puts the club in a very palmy, very cupped, and as you can see from down the line, very toe down position. This is very open, so then to square the face, they come over there and flip it across like that and do some other bad stuff. So we don't want to have the club face too much like this at the top of the backswing. Too much toe down, if you can see that. Okay. Somewhere between here and even slightly shut, you know, somewhere about 45 degrees, maybe a little bit less, is a good position at the top. Again, if I have a slightly stronger, that's pretty close to neutral, a little bit of cupping. If I go to the top, right, I have a slightly cupped wrist here, okay, but that club face is pretty square, okay, and so I'm in a good position to deliver the club from here, but certainly not if I add cupping. You can see that where that club face is rotating. Okay, what I actually want to do from a slightly cupped position is actually palmar flex just a little bit while I'm making a downswing, and then that'll get us to a position where you can see the leading edge is slightly toe down. On day 1, we actually took our backswing to here where we got the club slightly toe down, and I'm telling you today we want to kind of swing to the top, check the club face position there at the top, and then learn what we each individually have to do to get the club to where it's slightly toe down at 6 or shaft parallel on the downswing. Okay, so for a lot of you, especially if you have a slightly stronger than neutral grip, which is somewhat preferred by a lot of people these days, right? You'll want to swing to the top. You can check in the mirror that that shaft is on a good plane. It's not way laid off. It's not super across the line or something. You can certainly play golf from those positions. Generally speaking, you're better off somewhere in the middle. Okay, so you want to swing back. Club face, the leading edge is in a pretty good spot. And then what you'll notice is if I palm reflex, what palm reflection does to the club face is close it. You can see I'm here. I twist it so my palm goes this way, right? Same motion as this. You can see that club face twist shut a lot. It can't do it that much because my right wrist is on there, so it's going to be limited in how far it can go. But yes, if you did it this much, you could hit the ball into your left ankle, you know, or pretty far left. But generally speaking, you don't have much time on the downswing. The downswing's 0.15 of a second or so, so you generally don't have that much time to palm reflex the crap out of it. But we're going to palm reflex a little bit probably because you're probably a little cupped at the top. Again, like this, okay? So a little palm reflex as you swing down and you get to there. You'll notice that left wrist is pretty flat there. I haven't gone all the way to arched. Okay, if I didn't do that and I just came down, you can see the club wants to tip out. My left wrist is cupped still, and I'm gonna have to like do something like flip the club at it or try to swing left to try to help square the face up. Okay, so you get to the top here, a little tiny bit of cupping. As I'm swinging down, it palm reflexes. Right, if I overdo it, it'll look like that, and the club face will be down even more. Okay, if I underdo it, you can see the club will want to tip out, and you can see a little bit of cupping in that left wrist. So you want to learn kind of how much you have to feel it. A lot of people will feel it in their left wrist. Some people will feel it like the right wrist is bending back on itself because it does that a little bit. You can see from here, right? That's palm reflexing again. So the drill for today is just to go to the top, check out kind of what your wrist is in, okay? Palm reflex on the way down, and see that club slightly toe down. Because this is relatively square to the arc. If I stand up, that leading edge will be toe up. And if I bend forward into my golf posture, right, it'll be there. So again, square, square, leading edge slightly turned down because that's square to my body and the arc kind of on which I'm swinging the club. If you're asking why not just be Graham McDowell or Dustin Johnson and, you know, swing to the top and just go arched already, right? Go palm reflection already. Well, to that, if you are Dustin Johnson and you can swing down like this and get to this position at impact, more power to you, man. But for most mortals, it's generally a better idea to have a slight cupping of the wrist there and then go that way. If we get to the top for most people and we're arched, what happens is the whole downswing, all that arching comes out and they actually cup the whole downswing. So I'd rather see people go from cupped to arched during the downswing than from arched and trying to hold it, because what generally happens is they go from arched to cupped. Okay, so slight cupping, slight bit of this at the top of the backswing, especially if your grip is a little stronger than neutral, is good. Just know that you have to basically twist a little bit, right, to get that club so where it's a little bit more cupped, so a little bit more toe down right there at 6. Okay, that's day 4. We'll see you tomorrow for day 5.